Hello, welcome to Ram and Goat Astrology. I'm Laura Lee.
And I am Helena. Hello.
Oh, so we had a cat death this morning at our house. And one of our cats, so we had 11 of them and now we're down to 10, which feels like a better number, but Fang died, and Fang was he was a farm drop off. So people will just drop off cats at farms out here. And he was one of our first farm drop offs and was a great farm cat. Like he
Mm.
loved mousing. He was such a good mouser. And earlier in 2023, we think he ate like a poison bird or something. And he got like neurologic issues. And I'm pretty sure his kidneys did not handle it well. And he was on the brink of death. And then he bounced back, but not like fully. He was really like incapacitated mentally and neurologically, but he bounced back and he was living his best life. And Jade, who we've had on the show, talked to him a couple times, and he was like, I want to stay on this farm. Let me die here. I don't bring me
Yeah.
anywhere.
And Jade is an animal communicator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he finally passed away last night in a laundry basket in our hallway. And it feels very peaceful now, right? Like he needed to go. He lived at least all of his cat lives, right? They have like 9 lives. And I think he borrowed from a couple other cats because like he should have not lived this
He
long.
had so many lives. Yeah. I think I remember you told me about him after Jade had spoken to him because you were wondering about, like you were asking him, I think maybe after the poisoned bird that
Yep.
he started feeling weird. And yeah, that he said that I just want to live out the rest of my days here on this farm, and I want to live as many days as I possibly can, but don't do anything. Like I'm fine here. I just want to enjoy as many days
Yep.
as I can. And then when
And
when the time comes, the time comes.
he did the last week or so, 2 weeks for sure. He was doing really well, right? He was outside. It had gotten real cold here, but then it got nice for a couple days, and it was raining, but they could explore more, right? There was more room because a lot of the snow had melted and it was warmer temperatures. So he was outside quite a bit and interacting with the other cats. So like he had really good days at the end. And I'm like, oh, cool. And so the
Yeah.
girls and I were talking this morning, and they were a little bit sad because they didn't feel more sad. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's all right. Like we all feel, I think, more peaceful that he's not stuck in this struggling body and he's free. Now he can
Mm.
explore the farm as he wants, right?
Mhm.
And not be restricted to that physical body. So,
Exactly. But I can get that feeling or maybe question inside, like, why don't I feel more sad? I should be feeling sad. I should be grieving. Like this was my cat. But they knew he was sick for a long time, so they had you already start processing even before the death. And it's also like you never know how you react when you're
no.
grieving something, and they might be like not crying today, and maybe in a week they're gonna be, in tears for a whole day. And and I think also as humans we think that we have to follow, like you follow a certain rules of standards of how you grieve or how you act when something bad happens,
Mm-mm.
and afraid to go outside of those like steps, because
Expected.
maybe people think I'm a psychopath if I don't cry now or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're full of complex emotions,
Yeah.
and
And
we
when
deal
you've
with it differently.
Oh man, I think 10 months we've been kind of expecting him to go, right? Several times. And when you've had that kind of preparation, I feel like it just brought us all more peace this morning than anything, knowing like
Yeah.
he's at peace, right? He's
Mhm.
at peace. And you just started listening to or reading. Were you listening to it?
I did both. Like I found, like we're going to talk about Dolores Cannon a little bit today, and some of you probably know about Dolores Cannon, some don't. Laura has been telling me about Dolores Cannon for a long time, and then another coworker of mine also has been. So I'm like, oh, I think I need to look into this. And I'm traveling now, so I just found like a free sample of her book, which is called Between Life and Death.
Hmm. Between
And then
death and life.
Between Death and Life. Ah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I like that. and I found like a little snippet of some kind of like radio show that she recorded, and I listened a little bit to that. And I'm so intrigued. And yeah, because we were talking about death and how it's not just sad, and that I don't feel scared of dying. Like I want to live. I don't want to die now. I want to live, and there's a lot more things to do here. But when the time comes, there's nothing really to be afraid about. So why don't you tell us a little bit like Dolores Cannon? Who is she? Why is she
So
famous?
we've had Mary Louise on our show, and Mary Louise and I are in a book together called Dare to Express, and we each wrote a chapter. And I was just super attracted to Mary's energy, so we continued. After we wrote the book, we continued on meeting, and Mary does Akashic Records readings and past life regressions and things like that. And she did a session with me and said, "You're here to continue Dolores Cannon's work." And I was like, "Who is that?" What? And she said, "You don't know her?" I said, "No." She goes, "I'll go look her up." Okay. So Dolores Cannon is the founder of Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, or QHHT. And she was a channel big time for downloads, for tons and tons of downloads, and being able to help other people go into regression, hypnosis, and then they go into past lives. And they can access information that will help them with healing, or with dealing with traumas or whatever in this life. And then she took all of these experiences and just kept putting them into books and into books. And she saw patterns throughout all of these experiences with all of these different beings. And her information is absolutely fascinating. Like, if you are ready for the woo and to really dive
Mm.
into all of the spiritual, and it was the first time anybody had connected aliens and spirit together, was when I started listening to her books and really reading her stuff. I'd not ever put those two in the same category before.
Mm.
And then when
And
I,
what does she say about that? Does she say that like we are like our souls travel, like they can be in a human body, and but they can also reincarnate in an alien body, or
yes,
what's the take?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And in these different types of like light bodies, where it's not an actual physical form, right? It's just energy or just light. And some of her regressions, she would put people in, and they would, instead of going down into a past life on Earth, they would feel called to go up and out. And she would
Mm.
say, "Okay, go, go," right? And then they would go visit a planet where they were a specific being on this planet, but this planet's no longer there. And they would tell the story of like what happened with this planet. And it's just like, it's just fascinating. And
No,
her book
yeah.
Between Death and Life was the first one I read. And that, I think that removed any and all fear that I've ever had of death. It just took it away when I read that.
Yeah. Yeah. And because I'm always, uh like a little bit critical. Like it's so interesting because I did a past life regression last year, and just a few weeks ago I did another regression, but it was also one which was going to focus on the life in between lives. And this is before I read anything of Dolores Cannon. And now reading about what her like subjects, or like the people she hypnosed, what they were saying, I'm like, what? Those are things that I experienced when I did the past life regression. But anyway, so I'm always a little bit critical of like, am I really experiencing this? Is it true? Whatever. But even if all of this stuff that it has, well, Dolores Cannon has so much proof of it now, because so many people have been talking about the same thing, like what happens when you die. Uh, Even if you think like it might not like it might not be real or whatever, it still gives me so much peace and ease, because
That's it. It gave me peace.
yeah.
I can't even describe how I felt reading that book. It made me kind of like weirdly excited to
I
like
get
finish
that.
what I'm doing here, right? Like, I'm not leaving I'm like, I got things to do, right? We got things to do in Earth School. I've already made it 41 years. Let's get the job done. And then when I'm ready to go, I'm excited. Like, I feel like this is just one level of a whole bigger concept, a whole bigger
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, because what like my take on, I've read very little so far, like just a little sample of a book, but my take on what she's explaining is that we incarnate in these bodies and in this life with our karma, and there you can pull in all of the astrology. That's your astrological DNA, your birth chart. This is where you see your karma. This is where you see everything about this life, and also you can see past life lessons in your birth chart for this life. So you incarnate on this planet in this body, you get this astro chart. These are your lessons. This is the karma that you need to fulfill. And then in the next life, you move on. And if you, for example, like people check out early, people decide to leave their own bodies.
Yep.
And she explains that as, you know, the like spirit or like the guides like the on the like another plane, that's like the energy of the whole universe doesn't really harmonize with you choosing to leave your body, like you deciding, because it's not your choice, it's the energy, it's the universe's choice. So you end up coming into another life for the same lessons.
Yes.
You don't evolve, so you will be brought back in another body, but like with the same lessons as last time. You have to
You got to
go
complete
through
the
these
karma.
lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to complete the karma.
And that's in what I found fascinating is she said there are so many souls waiting to incarnate in Earth, because Earth was I think I read this in the book A New Earth and the Three Waves of Volunteers. And in that book, she describes all of the various people that she regressed, and she started seeing patterns of souls who volunteered to come here simply to raise the vibration of the planet, because the planet was going in the wrong direction, and specifically with World War I and then World War II, and with the atomic bombs, humans are so primitive that it's like giving a gun to a toddler, right? Like we don't know what kind of energy we're actually dealing with, and we don't realize the destructive capabilities not only on our planet, but the frequency of how it affects the rest of the galaxy. Like we could literally blow up a whole bunch of other things out there because of the outward energy force. So there was humans were going down a path of really destructive energy, and so she found these waves of souls that volunteered to come here to just raise the vibrational frequency so we don't go into the destructive energy. And that was really, I thought, fascinating. She said there's just tons and tons of souls waiting to come in to help Earth because it's such a unique place, and it's such a unique way to deal with a lot of karma and heal a lot of stuff is by coming here to
Yeah,
like it's a hard thing to do, to come to Earth. It's like
it is.
dense,
It's a
very dense.
Yeah, and I found it so interesting to read about, because she writes a lot of like the interactions she had with people who was under hypnosis, going past in different lives and experiencing death, and how they felt leaving their body. And she was very made sure that they wouldn't end up in an uncomfortable situation or feel the pain of the body or anything like that. But what she noticed is that people actually felt like, oh, I feel so, it feels so good leaving my body. And she would ask like, how, in what way? It's like, I felt so heavy in earth. My body was keeping me like locked down and tied down, and I had pains and aches and all this. But now I'm just floating, and it's like, and yeah, so that made me just think that, yeah, this physical world, it's not an easy one. I mean, it's not just hard either. We have a lot of fun. There's so much love and like this,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of stuff, but it's physical. It's also heavy. We're tied to this human form.
Mm-hmm. It is
It's just so
really,
interesting to listen to.
I just pulled up her birth chart and I'm going to share this because I find it fascinating. So she has Neptune, 0 degree Virgo rising, and then Neptune at 1 degree here. So she's right like the first thing that shows up in her chart is Neptune. So,
Mm.
I mean, talk about spiritual connection and showing up in this spiritual way, but then being very analytical about it with Virgo, right? So her books are all from documented research that
Yeah.
she did with her clients. Like she kept detailed notes and recorded sessions, and like how Virgo can you be like, with that analytical energy and then doing it in such a spiritual way, like
Yeah. And
just
the
so brilliant,
no.
such a
And
brilliant.
also, yeah, like Neptune on her ascendant is like she really sees the world through that Neptune. Like she has her like all like tentacles out from her. Like the ascendant is also a lot your body, like what you like your the first thing people see, your body, your shell. And
Yep.
having a Neptune there makes me think that she was so like a very porous body, like things just intuitively, like she's such an intuitive person.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think having that and then her Venus in Pisces in the seventh house, well, she probably loved doing one on one sessions with people, that seventh house partnership, and then going deep and exploring all of the realms of that woo nebulous unconscious in Pisces, right? And that's how she made
Mm.
her money too. So, like, this is a brilliant description of how this birth chart could really manifest. Venus in
Yeah.
Pisces in the seventh, and then that's connected beautifully in a trine to Pluto in
Yeah.
Cancer in the
Very much
11th
exciting.
house. So,
Mm.
humanity, right? Transforming humanity, transforming communities, and really transforming in humanitarian efforts to help people nourish themselves better, right? Help people to really feel supported and mothered. Man, she got Pluto and Jupiter quite near each other. And then those are trying to Venus. Like, come on. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Really. And
Uh,
she was an Aries, a lot of
Aries
Aries
sun
energy, like a
and
sun
Aries moon,
Aries. Mm.
Aries
So
Uranus.
she was not if like this the work she did, she was one of the first, maybe the first to really do this kind of work and talk about it.
Mhm.
And there is that Aries energy that she's not scared of what other people are going to think about her doing this, or like paving a way. That's
Right.
very Aries. Like I'm going to be like, okay, I have not seen anyone do this before. That's all right. I'm gonna do it. I'm strong enough to like take the lead.
And that Uranus and Aries generation too, she really was born during a time of huge transformation, right? Huge changes. I mean, I think she was born 1931. So yeah, April 15th, 1931. Like America was going through a massive depression, which then led to a global depression, which then eventually led to World War II. And so her youth was during World War II. And that's such an interesting time frame to be living. And then
Mm,
she's got her mind, Mercury, in stable, steady Taurus, but in the ninth house, which I always think of as like extreme curiosity, right? That's
yeah,
when your brain is in the ninth area of life, you are really, really curious about all of the everything, anything you can learn.
yeah. Really interesting chart.
She doesn't have any planets in air, but her 10th house contains all of Gemini. So this
Mm,
is a great reason why and how somebody who doesn't have any air planets could be so communicative. She wrote like 50 books. She
yeah.
did tons of interviews and videos and all kinds of stuff like that. So even though there's no active planets in us in these signs, look how active they were in her chart. Libra in the second house, so foundational energy there. Her sixth house is Aquarius, the whole sixth house. So her daily work and routine was weird.
Very weird.
And then her
Very
whole
out
10th
there.
house is Gemini. So even though there's no active planets, I love how this chart showcases how air energy still exists within us, right? Like
Yeah.
this
We
is
all
great.
have, yeah, we all have all like the energies of all signs in our astrological DNA, even if we don't have any planets or like any other points in these signs, we still carry the energies of all the signs.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we could pull the asteroids and stuff into here. We're not right now, but we could pull those in and see if there are some asteroids in some of the air signs. There very well
Yeah.
might be. But I love that she's got Mars in the 12th house in Leo, right? So she was so driven towards the other side, towards what's beyond the curtain, right? What is beyond that veil? She's driven to find out and be brave and bold and be seen, right? She really stepped out in the 60s with hypnosis, and because she had experienced it herself, and then she started kind of doing it more and more and more. And you have to be brave to do that in that time frame as a woman,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, especially as a woman. Yeah.
It's fascinating. I love looking at charts of, people that we know, whether it's Martin Luther King or, some other famous people. It's just, it's fun to kind of see how that energy manifests.
Yeah. But I feel like now when I started scratching the surface a little bit about Dolores Cannon and what she, not, I wouldn't say that she teaches, she just like gives us information that she has gotten from the people under hypnosis. So this is not anything that she has like made up with anything. It's just like what people have told her when they have been to these places, and she has documented it, and people have said the same things over and over.
And that's the thing, is the patterns.
Yeah, the patterns. Because and that's also what makes me, because I had that regression a few weeks ago, and I was like, it was so trippy.
So
and of course,
you told me about this, but tell everybody
yeah.
what'd you do?
So I did something that I guess Dolores Cannon did with her clients. I went to someone who does regressions, and I lay down, and she started doing this like hypnosis, like counting down, and like have to like to get down to my subconscious so I could reach into there to my past lives. And the first thing that I'm thrown into is a life where I pretty much was punished. Well, I was sentenced to death for dealing with herbs, and I saw my family there, and also the same time I knew I was a critical person before I went into this, and I knew that I was going to be critical, but I told myself, just go with it, just say whatever you see, and I can still be critical, but I'm still going to just tell her everything I see. So when this is happening, I'm still like critical. Like I'm not hypnosed to that level that I'm not there, but I'm just there's things that are shown to me. So I'm like, oh, what am I seeing? What am I seeing this? And I saw myself in like this white nightgown, and people were pretty much leading me to the water to drown me. And I felt, of course, I felt really sad. Like this wave came over me of feelings of like guilt of leaving my family, but also of like this commitment that I had to the knowledge of the herbs that I was using, and knowing that there was no other way. I sort of knew in this life, like this is going to happen. I knew it was going to happen eventually. Now here we are, but there's nothing I can do. And there was a lot of details there, and a lot of details that gave me so many clues to my life now and my relationship with my family, and why I have been feeling some patterns that have really, driven my life in a certain way, and some of them hard to deal with.
Yeah.
So all of this was really mind-blowing. But the thing is that when they threw me in the water, and I was explaining to her, like, okay, now they're putting a sack around my head, they're putting stones in it, they're tying it around my neck, and they're throwing me in the water. And I was expecting, when I saw that, I was expecting that I was going to get really panicked because I was being drowned.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was almost peaceful. Like I just sort of witnessed it. And this is what I read in her book now, like people can actually, when they're experiencing a really traumatic death, like I assume this was very traumatic in that life.
Right.
I just didn't feel the trauma. I didn't really access the trauma, like the death part. So she said that when people experience traumatic deaths, your soul sometimes leaves the physical body
Early.
before it dies. Yeah.
I remember that. I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
I have had a regression or a channeling session where I was burned very hastily, burned at the stake by a Roman bishop, Roman Catholic bishop, similar for being like basically an apothecary herbalist, right? Um, Also, I wouldn't perform some sexual favors. I'm pretty sure that was part of it too. But I was hastily burned, and I remember there was an exiting early, and I had not read her book yet, and I had not read that part yet. And then when I did, I was like, oh,
Mm.
because I remember like seeing it from above, right? Like I was not in that body anymore. I had
Yeah.
exited early. So
Yeah.
there's something comforting about that.
It is like and that told me also, because when I was in this hypnosis, I was like, oh, I wonder why I'm not feeling more scared. But and she asked me like, what is happening now? And I'm like, I'm going up. I'm going up, up, up. So I was going up. I decided, I guess, like I'm not gonna stick around for the drowning part. Like I'm done.
I'm out of
See you
here.
later. I'm out of here. I know what's gonna happen. So I just took off, and like I was lifting into this pretty much to my guides, and they were like welcoming me with their hands, and it was really crazy. But that, yeah,
Did
that
you feel
whole
peaceful
thing,
then?
very peaceful. I wasn't, yeah, it wasn't a lot of sadness or anything. It was mostly like I knew this was going to happen, but I knew that I had to keep doing what I was doing with the herbs to help my family who was sick. and and when I came up to my guides and everything, um I remember them saying something like, good job or well done, like not really in those words, but it was like, you did your karma pretty much, like you did what you needed to do.
Okay.
And a big part of a lesson from that life is also to never to like keep sticking to what's true to you, because I'm sure this was in the hypnosis asked me like, what year is this? And I remember saying something like 1600 and blah blah blah. And she also asked me to point or like to tell me where on the world map I was, and I was like, it's just below the border to Canada in the US, on the west coast, and I don't know the geography of the United States really. So later, when I zoomed into that part of the map, I found Salem there, and I know that in the 1600s there was these witch trials, but
Yes.
because I started Googling about this after, I'm like, I have to double check what I saw. And
Right.
I was searching, like, did people drown? But I couldn't find anything about that. But of course, it could have happened either way. And you know what? Another thought I had, like, of like not trusting what I saw.
Yeah.
I was like, but why was I a witch? Why is it always like a witch? Why am I just making that up?
Right.
Because it's like the thing that people go back to. But I have lived so many lives, and that's the one that popped up because that's the one that was a traumatic one.
Yeah.
I wasn't shown a life where I was just like maybe a farmer and like living my days in a happy marriage. No,
Peaceful.
because
Right.
why should I see that? It doesn't have any lessons to teach me in this life. So that sort of gave me like that. Oh, okay, that's why so many people in their regressions, they see their lives when they did stuff like this, when they were persecuted, when they were burned at the stake, when they were drowned. That's why there's so many people with the same stories, because that's the trauma that we're working through now.
Exactly. So
Mm.
I just picked you a card because I felt very compelled to.
Mm.
And it's from an oracle deck I have called the Herbal Astrology Oracle
Wow. All right.
by Adriana I'm going to say it wrong. Alales. Yep, something like that. So my niece got me this for Christmas, and I while you were talking and telling me your story, I picked the card Dandelion, and it's Chiron and Jupiter are the two planets up there, and it's the wounded healer, right? So I picked it upright, and for upright, it's wounded healer, wounds as tools to awaken us, the healing journey, and inner child healing. So the English word for dandelion comes from French dent de lion, or lion's teeth. which I find interesting that you incarnated as a Leo in this life. Your sun is Leo, referring to the spiky, pointed shape of the plant. The French also called this plant pissenlit, or pea the bed, due to its diuretic powers and support for the kidneys. Traditional Chinese medicine uses it for stomach problems, appendicitis, breast inflammation, and to assist mothers with milk production. In Europe, it's been used to relieve fevers, treat boils, eye problems, diabetes, and diarrhea. Dandelion is a survivor. It has an extraordinary ability to withstand hardship and thrive in disturbed environments. Dandelion loosens compacted earth and grows deep taproots that rejuvenate the soil. And this is what it does to body and soul. It assists us in renewing, cleansing, mineralizing, and adapting. In medical astrology, dandelion is associated with the sun and Jupiter. It's primarily an alternative herbs that gradually restore the proper function of the body, increasing health and vitality. And it's a bitter herb that works on the liver and the gallbladder. Chiron, also known as the wounded healer, was a wise centaur in Greek mythology who gave up his immortality to save Prometheus after he was accidentally pricked by a poison arrow, and learned that despite all his medical knowledge, he would be in pain forever. He ended up landing among the stars as a constellation. Chiron orbits between Saturn and Uranus, symbolically marking the liminal territory between Saturn, the third dimension, and concrete reality, and Uranus, the fifth dimension, and the quantum mind, embodying the rainbow bridge between the inner and outer planets. In astrology, Chiron represents our deepest, most tender wounds that are the most difficult to heal. Yet it also marks where we hold our greatest gifts. So your guidance for this card is dandelion is here to remind you that you can thrive regardless of your circumstances. Take ownership over your wounds, find gratitude in the lessons, dive deep into the depths of your origins. That's funny. And use your wounding to further define the purpose and healing you are here to transmit and share with the world. Don't let your pain define your personality, but draw from it for strength and purpose. And like Chiron, you are born from the seeds of higher order and intelligence. Embrace this great healing power you've been given and go beyond the outlined path. Whoa.
It's really cool. Like it just gives me so many keys to so many layers of myself, like why I've had like a fear of opening up to people, because obviously I was taught to keep my secret because otherwise you die. Yeah. And so like not really trusting it tells me a lot about my sort of the social part of me, and why it's been hard for me, and why authority has been
a thing
that I have a problem with.
Yes.
With always getting in trouble with teachers.
You and me both, girl.
Yeah. And in this life, you know, the priest was walking in the front, like leading the way. And yeah, it's just, but, and in a different life, another regression, I also remember this thing with flowers. I was walking around in a field of flowers, and it was telling me about flowers and astrology. And it's like, I'm doing the astrology part. The herb part is sort of there. It has been for a couple of years in my life, but it's not very active. It's not a super active part that I'm researching and stuff like that. But I'm guessing it's going to come in more and more into my life as I mature.
I think so.
Yeah. And just this drowning part, like we knew it, you and I, because my 12th house.
We've talked about it several times, actually.
Yeah. It has Neptune there, for example, which is a watery planet. And I have Chiron in Cancer, another water sign, and I've nearly drowned 3 times in my life. And I'm here on vacation now, and I'm like very careful with the water. And
you actually had there was a drowning near your work not too long ago.
Yeah.
So you've really experienced quite a bit just
Yeah.
in that realm.
Yeah, I have. Water is really a thing. Like I remember with astrology, the first thing that called me was the moon, and the moon, it controls the water. Like the moon, it's ebb and flow. It pulls and pushes the water. So I feel like water for me is a huge lesson. I look to the water with not fear, but with a lot of respect, and
Yes.
knowing that I have to, like I'm not trying to not go into the ocean or like be part of the water. I know I have to, but I have to work on letting go and trusting.
That
And
makes
this
sense.
I'm doing quite a lot. Yeah. And so just seeing that I drowned here is like, okay, now I understand why I have had like, so much issues with this. But yeah, and another part of the regression is that I saw myself as some kind of like a spinning cylinder of
Like an orb.
energy, as an orb sort of thing, in another, like a water planet, a planet that is like,
And you said that planet's not here anymore?
that planet's not here anymore. And it's just like, when I'm saying this, I know what it sounds like. It's so trippy. And when I saw this, when
It's
I was
so
telling this,
trippy. It's
this,
so
it's like,
trippy.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is what I saw. I just saw myself as a spinning orb of energy, in some kind of water, and there was kind of mermaid there, and yeah, that was my life. And that was like a nice life, actually. I wasn't tied to anything too heavy. I was just there. I was like almost like it was just consciousness, pretty much.
That's awesome. This
Yeah.
is the stuff her books have opened my eyes and mind to these concepts that they weren't in my head for whatever reason, right? And what I've actually found is I found a new respect for the religion I was raised with was Catholic, and I'm understanding a little bit better some of what they were trying to teach. Right, this Christ light. There's that was used a lot, right? Christ light, and the the body of Christ, and there's just a lot of this energetics that they were trying to explain, but my brain wasn't quite grasping it. And now that I've learned other ways of thinking and other connections through Dolores Cannon and then subsequently other teachers now since her, the religious stuff actually makes more sense to me.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, that's what they were trying to get through. Oh, right. It just clicked a different way. So I feel
Yeah.
like this is a language I have spoken many, many times before and have been trying to find it again. And I found it through astrology. And when Mary Louise told me that my mission is to continue Dolores Cannon's work, I thought that meant, oh, I'm supposed to become a QHHT practitioner and do that, which, I mean, ideally, I would love to do that. Like, that is definitely a long term goal of mine. But what I found is I actually do it through my astrology readings. That's my channel that opens it up, or that's
Exactly.
my,
It's like a book, like someone's opening their book, and you're like, oh, I can read you now. I can
yes.
read you this
And
life and your past.
and then I get these downloads or these images of their past lives that are relevant to them now and in their readings, right? So sometimes I'll tell them that, hey, I'm getting this, and sometimes I'll just kind of work it in how I'm talking, but I'm opening more people's minds up to this concept, right? To this energetic frequency that they didn't know about, right? They didn't understand or were maybe just learning to tap into. And I'm realizing that I'm doing Dolores Cannon's work my own way, right? My Aries self, of course, I'm Aries, and the 11th house of independence, leave me alone. So, of course, I'm not going to follow Dolores's exact path because
Yeah.
that's
She had
not
her
what.
way, you had yours.
And I'm now realizing this is my gateway. This is my opening. And finally, like it made sense to me because for a while I really did think, oh, this is what I have to do. And then I backed up and went, no, 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 no. I do my way and get in through a different channel. And that's
Yeah.
what's happening when I do readings for people. And it's so fun and they're
Yeah.
fascinated and they know this energy. They felt it. And like you have with the drownings. And then I bring it up into their conscious mind through their chart. And they're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, and it's not like seeing that makes me more scared, like, oh my God, I can't believe I drowned, or like they drowned me. It doesn't, it gives me more understanding, and sort of the peace comes because of the understanding. So it just gives me more understanding in this life. And like maybe some people listening are thinking like, but why would you want to go back and see all these traumatic things that you experienced? Like, how scary? Why would you do something so scary? But and also maybe some other people are thinking it's just like information mongering, just wanting to know and know. But all of these things is exactly why I was into astrology. It's because I am getting to know myself on a deeper plane, because
Exactly.
I want to get to know myself, because I somewhere in my body, I guess and I know that in this life I need to do me. I need to do my life in this life. I'm very aware of it. So I'm just trying to find keys to do it in an easier and simpler way, to get to know myself. And
Mhm.
yeah, it brought
To
me
deal
no
with,
fear, or I'm not scared after seeing that what happened. Not at all.
because we have to deal with the traumas. We have to deal with the traumas. And I believe that when we sign up to come to Earth School and we're checking off all the stuff we're going to take care of, right? I believe that there is a part of us that says, oh, well, I've already lived that life and I dealt with that. So let me take that knowledge and I'll bring it into this life. And
Exactly.
what I really firmly believe that it's very much like watching movies. When we are in spirit land and we're planning to make the leap into Earth, it's like us watching a movie, or like Indiana Jones or Laura Croft Tomb Raider, whatever. We are watching the adventure from the comfort of our couch going, oh, that looks fun. But then if you go and do the adventure, it's a lot more difficult, right?
Mm,
Same thing, I think, with spirit world. We're like almost naive to how difficult it's going to be here. And
yeah.
we forgot the mission. We don't
Mm,
consciously know the assignment and we have to
exactly.
figure it out.
Yeah. And that I don't know why it's so damn hard. Like why it would be so much easier if we just knew, but I mean, I'm not the one who decides these things. But and also I just want to tie back to that thing of like uh knowing, seeing the traumas that you have experienced in the past life. In your life, all of us here on this planet, we have traumas from past lives. And even if you know about them or not, it doesn't matter, because you're still acting from them.
They
You
still
still
affect
have them. Yeah. So me seeing this trauma, it doesn't awaken a trauma in my life. No, I've already had this. I
somebody
was
there.
dealing with it. I just
Yeah.
didn't know exactly where it came from. And now this helps me to move on,
Yes.
to go forward,
Yes.
to work with it.
Absolutely. This is something that has been fascinating me since I did my own, I guess I do my own regressions and my own channeling sessions. I don't even know what to call them, but I've gotten lots of past life glimpses from my own self. And one of them, I was uh in the South, and I had south of in America, and I had it was real hot, and I had like a plantation or something, right? There was a lot of fields, a lot of like dried beans or peanuts or cotton, whatever we were growing in the South, hot area in North America. And there was kids everywhere. Like I'm talking like 10, 15, 20 kids like running around everywhere. And I was a very, very skinny, sickly woman that had very empty cabinets and very, very little food. And these kids had to go out and work in the fields and go like basically anything we could do to survive. And
Mm,
I visited this life to get knowledge of how to work on my food issues in this life. I have
exactly.
eating issues, food issues, where I have food now, but I want to save it. I don't want to eat it, right? I want to preserve it and grow it and have it, but I don't want to eat it like it's for later, right? There's this
Yeah.
weird fear I have that there's not going to be food, so I have to store it and hoard it, and if I don't need to eat it right now, don't, because we'll need that. And it's the trauma's already there.
Yeah,
I've been
exactly. You're acting
experiencing
from it. Yeah.
I've been experiencing this my whole life, and it never made sense until I visited this past life and I went, oh, like I felt this woman's hunger pains, right? Like I watched her malnourished skin and missing teeth and trying to make bread with whatever flour she had to feed these ridiculous amount of kids. And I'm like, "Oh, oh honey, okay." Right? Like I had more
Mm.
empathy for myself
Yeah.
now, and I have more compassion for the food issues I'm going through now. And I don't know, it didn't make any traumas any worse. In fact, I think it just really helped me to clarify and understand where I'm coming from.
Exactly. And maybe it helps you like now when you're eating that you can tell yourself like it's okay, I can enjoy this food. I'm gonna eat this whole portion and I'm gonna even enjoy it
Yeah.
because I have this here. I don't need to be scared that I won't get another plate of food tomorrow. I will. And like, tell yourself that because your soul was carrying this trauma with it. Mm.
And the burdens of feeding all of these children. And she obviously did not give birth to all of these children. It was like she was like the grandma that took them all in, right? Like
Mm.
she took in all of these.
Like a foster.
Exactly. And just even though she had, nothing for them, she provided whatever she could. So I feel that I've taken in many people. We've on our land have lived with us, to get on their feet, get whatever, and we don't have much to give them, right? But we provided space, and we've done it 5 or 6 times now, and it's, I don't know, it's just that's something in me that really
Yeah.
has that urge to help people. And I think
Mm.
my Chiron in the 12th house, I that's some deep stuff I have to work on from past lives, from the
Yeah. Yeah.
woo zone.
Oh, it's so interesting. And yeah, like you said in the beginning of this recording, you said like something like I'm not scared of dying. I'm almost looking forward to it. And I I really get that. And even though it can sound like triggering for a lot of people, I totally get you because now you see that this is not it's not the end after you die. It's just a chapter of something much, much bigger. And it doesn't mean that you're not enjoying to live this life and
Exactly.
really living it. It's just that, well, when the time comes, I know it will be my time, and then I will go up into the ether and be somewhere for a while, and then I will come back in another body and keep doing this work,
Although I really hope it's on a healthier earth.
Same.
I really, if I'm coming back to earth, it better be way more advanced and in health focused and conscious,
Yeah.
higher conscious vibration. And then, okay, so we're going to go off on a small little tangent here before we wrap it up, because this is another part of Dolores's work that I haven't wrapped my head around. So she has written like 50 plus books, a lot. She had conversations with Nostradamus. She had teachings of Jesus. Like she had really amazing conversations with people and fascinating information. One of the things she teaches is the vibrational change of the earth and the frequency, like it's literally shifting right now. And we talked a little bit about this, where like the pulse of the earth is being raised, and but apparently we are currently in a transitionary phase where we are evolving into a new vibration and into a new earth. I'm struggling with this concept because I feel like my mind is too limited right now, right? Like I need someone to explain it in a different way, or maybe I need to learn more about it. But that's another part of her teachings that fascinate me, but I'm not quite grasping. Do you know what I'm
Mm.
explaining with this? The frequency of the earth is changing, and we're
Yeah. Yeah.
evolving into a new light body or something.
Exactly. And that sounds amazing. And I'm like, oh, a big part of me is like, that sounds too good to be true, but let's hope it's happening. But
Yeah.
if you look back, I mean, we have been in cycles as humans, and sometimes it ended up bad, sometimes better. So why not? And us entering into another like vibration or something, that doesn't mean that everything will be fine forever and ever, but I think it means that we're ready for it now and we have the opportunity to do something really good with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that is where it's going, even though if you look around what's happening on this
quite
planet
feel
now,
like it.
it's
Well, and she actually explained that a little bit too, is like this polarization is part of the evolution. So
yeah.
how it's almost like humans are splitting into two separate categories, right? Like ones that have like awakened to these concepts, and then the ones that are like more primitive, and that polarization is part of the process. Again, my brain is not grasping this well at all. I definitely need to read more books on this one, but I've had it also explained similarly in some of the programs like on Gaia that we watch. I think one of them is Ancient Civilizations, and it talks about the Incans and the Mayans and all them, and that they didn't get wiped out. They evolved. Like they evolved into another frequency, another dimension. And I'm like, wait, what? What? Way over my. So there's so much to learn yet.
There's so much we don't know. There is so much that we don't know, and not even about the future or what's going on now, but about the past. There's so much we don't know about history, like what's been going on here.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. So, well, this is fun talking about Dolores today. I hope we opened up some of your minds to maybe explore her and check her out. And I would recommend starting with the book Between Death and Life. I feel like that one is a safe one to start with. But she does have a lot of them, and if any of them call to you, dive in. They're fascinating. Her work is absolutely fascinating. Her chart, I think, is fascinating. Little Neptune on her rising sign with Virgo. Like, of course, she's going to analyze all the woo.
Yeah,
do it, Dolores, do it. So this was fun. I'm so glad we got to talk about more spiritual stuff.
love it.
So we'll have some transit readings coming up. We'll have some interviews coming up. So I'm excited to see what our next episodes bring for us. So if anybody wants to be on our show, you know how to click the button below and email us, and we'd be happy to have you on as a guest. And if you want to support us, you can buy us a tea or a coffee. And if you have any show ideas, we would love to hear from you as well. So email us your show ideas. Like and follow and share and subscribe.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that too. Yeah. Thank you, and please.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Ram and Goat Astrology. You can support the show by buying us a coffee or a tea. Link in the show notes. Your financial support means the world to us. Join us next time.